Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawahir al-Quran wa Durr, the Juz of the Quran, its spells. In the last session, we spoke about how people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created people, and that, of course, ultimately they die. In between, they could reach the age, a very, very old age, to the degree that they will not know anything after all the knowledge that they have acquired. You talk about Alzheimer, but it's not even. It doesn't have to be Alzheimer. Ultimately, things continue to deteriorate until they don't have no clue to what's going on. So we continue by reading the verses and touching upon the themes that we come across on our way to verse 89, the next selection that Imam Ghazali did from Surah An-Nahl, the chapter named after bees. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favored some of you over others in provision, but those who have been much favored would not share their wealth with those in fact, they don't share with others, but they don't share it with others. But those who have been much favored would not share their wealth with those bondspeople in their position, making them their equals. Do they then deny Allah's favors? I try every time the issue of slavery is mentioned to send the following message that I have been taught through our Islamic teaching in late middle school and high school. He taught us that Islam came to get rid of this issue. It was widespread, not only in the Arabian Peninsula, but all over the world. In the Americas, in the United States, you know very well how they enslaved people from Africa. Many died on the way to the United States and the Americas in general. So this is the statement, but at the same time, this is not the only thing. The penance for some of the sins were to free a slave. The moment a girl, I'm talking about a woman slave, gives birth, she becomes free. We should remember this. I'm sure that some of you are aware of the story of Monticello, the house, the mansion, where President Jefferson resided in West Virginia, and the story with his slave girl. Though he advocated the end of slavery, but he did have slaves, and she did give birth to him, to many of his children, the children of that African American woman. But the idea is that people don't usually share in the absolute sense. You don't give a share of your wealth to others. That's the point. And it's inevitable that we will have different shares, different provisions, different sustenance, different incomes. Um, no matter how hard we do, alhamdulillah, statistically it seems that humanity is doing much better. And talk about statistically, still 80% in the north are enjoying 20% in the north, 20% people enjoying 80% of the world resources, 80% who live in the south, they subsist on 20% of the resources. It's still an unfair reality, especially because many countries in the south they are still paying their former colonial powers, like France, they pay them money. It should be the other way around. France should compensate them, and every colonial power should have compensated the countries that they have colonized. Practically almost all the Middle East was colonized. The French, the British, even the Italians. The Italians colonized Libya in 1911, the Horn of Africa. But the idea is that as we talk about a fair distribution of wealth, there's even a serious problem today with all these, like the three richest people on earth, to my knowledge, are American, and their wealth is the equivalent of the wealth of 48, the lowest 48 countries in the world. And they are playing a new role in politics, almost an oligarchy. But in this context, I would like to mention what Imam Sha'rawi once said in one of his lectures. The late Egyptian scholar who passed away in the late 20th century, he, rahimahullah, said that if all people on earth became physicians, life on earth would collapse. This is why it's inevitable that كل ميسر لما خلق له. That it's in the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that people go in different direction. We do need each other. The next verse speaks about, again, if you have been following the all these previous sessions, you could also read the verses of Surah An-Nahl. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us of all the favors that He bestowed on us and how He subjected the universe to our service in order for us to be able to fulfill our role as vicegerents on earth to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for ultimately وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us so that we may worship Him, serve really. So the next favor Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created for ourselves, and Allah has made for you spouses of your own kind. And I would highlight min anfusikum, from yourself, like story of Adam alayhi salam, and giving you through your spouses children and grandchildren. And He has granted you good lawful provisions. Are they then faithful to falsehood or ungrateful for Allah's favors? The talk, the zawj, the pair, but spouses too. And min anfusikum, there's also that sense of sameness in the etymology of the of anfusikum. And I know that there is still debate. Atheists would argue against an original pair, Adam and Eve. Well, some people think that there should be immediately thousands of pairs. The same people who argue for thousands of pairs, evolving, theory of evolution, evolving from dead matter. Dead inanimate object would never be able to give life. And imagine a life like this with 86 billion neurons in your brain. Think about the human genome, think about the microbiome, think about the skin, the bones, think about your blood vessels that are, if you extend them, if you spread them out in a line, that they will be long enough to circle the Earth at the equator 4 times. One can argue much more better than this, I would say. They have to be created. How could dead matter, how could physics become biology, if you will? How could dead matter become alive and in the fashion that you see in yourself? So there are those who would still, are they then faithful to falsehood and ungrateful to Allah's favors? Many are some, they have reached this level. The problem also that there are those who claim that they believe in God, but they have abolished the law, and that's a very large number of people. And if we talk about Jesus Christ, peace upon him, think about people celebrate some people love to speak about the sermon on the mount, and they celebrate it. They think that this is really it does include so many important things, but they should also remember that under the subtitle fulfillment of the law, we talk about Matthew 5-7, where it begins with Jesus Christ, peace upon him, saying, inshallah, this is what he said, but they have no reason why to deny it. Do not think that I, Jesus Christ, peace upon him, saying, do not think that I have come to abolish the law, Sharia, halakha, if you will. It's the same identical etymology. Or the prophets, I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen, will by any means disappear from the law, until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Why then the law was abolished? Think about it. There's a sophisticated, elaborate law in Judaism. There's sophisticated, elaborate law in Islam. The Qur'an says that to each of you we have assigned a law. Of course, it's like a Venn diagram if you think about it. But in between Judaism and Islam, the law ultimately disappeared. And obviously not because of Jesus Christ, peace upon him. The work of theologians, the work of church leaders, etc. So we should remember that the signs in the universe lead to the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All these things that have been bestowed on us. But those who deny, they deny they're ungrateful. وَبِنِعْمَةِ اللَّهِ هُمْ يَكْفُرُونَ. they disbelieve, they reject, they cover the truth, and they worship and they worship besides Allah those idols who do not afford them any provision from the heavens and the earth, nor do they have the power to. We spoke about dead matter will never, it's impossible for dead matter to give life except when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates life. But on its own, it's dead. The idol made out of marble, made out of stone, limestone, made out of bronze, made out of wood, made out of plastic. The idol itself is dead. And not that it was alive and died. It's dead matter. Has zero impact on you except that when you believe in it, you believe in something that does not benefit self, cannot benefit others, because it's dead matter. Cannot provide them with sustenance, cannot provide them with the provisions, anything. So do not set up equals to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for Allah certainly knows, and you do not know. فَلَا تَضْرِبُوا اللَّهِ الْأَمْثَالَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And thinking about the world of the unseen, there will be always something. To Allah alone belongs the knowledge of the unseen in the heavens and the earth. If it's revealed, then we will know. If it's not revealed, then we will not know. We have no access to this unseen world. Bringing about the hour would only take the blink of an eye. Like the blink of an eye. Could be even. This is why we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to leave us to our own wits, our own will, our own decisions, our own understanding, our own analysis, our own calculations, our own management, our own plans. اللهم لا تكلنا أنفس طرفة عين كلمح البصر. The blink of an eye could destroy yourself. I'm not talking about physical, talk about in terms of the hereafter. In a blink of an eye, one can move from being a believer to being a non-believer. And then confirmation of the fact that people are born without knowledge. if you will. والله خرجكم من بطون أمهاتكم لا تعلمون شيئا وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة لعلكم تشكرون. Allah brought you out of the wombs of your mothers while you knew nothing and gave you hearing, sight, and intellect. Well, والأفئدة, we talk about the heart, not as a this is not about cardiology, this is about today it is established that we spoke about this, that the heart has neurons, not as much as forces in the brain, but it does have. And alluding to the fact that the birds ألم يروا الطير مسخرات في جو السماء ما يمسكون إلا الله إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يؤمنون. Have they not seen the birds glide in the open sky? None holds them up except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surely these are signs for those who believe. Think about it. ما يمسكهن إلا الله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them the way they are. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established the laws of physics, of aerodynamics, of all the things that are necessary for these birds to fly and sometimes even glide almost effortless. When birds migrate in the summer and the winter from Europe to Africa, and then from Africa to Europe, flying over Palestine, by the way, they don't fly over the Mediterranean, so they fly over land. It's an amazing trip. Thousands of miles. Subhanallah. ما يمسكون إلا الله. And the Quran mentions that these bears, in as much as everything else, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ, in its own way, praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالطَّيْرُ صَافَّاتٍ قَدْ عَلِمَ كُلُّ صَلَاتَهُ وَتَسْبِيحَهُ يَا جِبَالُ أَوِّبِ مَعَهُ وَالطَّيْرُ. This is about Sayyidina Dawood alayhi salam, calling the mountains and the bears to echo his recitation, his hymns. And another favor is having the homes, but a place to rest, maybe a little bit more than rest. Of course, home is a place for us to rest. والله جعلكم من بيوتكم سكنا وجعلكم من جلود الأنعام بيوتا تستخفونها يوم ظعنكم ويوم إقامتكم ومن أصوافها وأوبارها وأشعارها أثاثا ومتاع إلى حين. بيوت. بات يبيت. We talk about when you a place where you sleep, where you stay overnight, bayat. But the houses, we talk about the Qur'an, we talk about. In English, we have also many words for the house. Manzil is a residence. Dar, it's a dwelling. Bina is a structure, it's a building. But the idea of second, in fact, the very nature of marriage should lead to sakina, to second. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. We don't talk about romanticism, love stories like in the movies. This is not Gone with the Wind. These are not soap operas, whether in Spanish or Turkish or Arabic or whatever. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. And this is when we talk about home. Talk about sakina, second. A place of tranquility. مقر, مقطن, مستقر, but second from sakina. It's very beautiful, and I know someone who named his house, his residence, as in terms of sakina, which is beautiful. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant us all the notion of sakina, the state of sakina, the state of tranquility. A home is not a place where people argue unnecessarily. It's not a place for negative competition. It's a place where you live outside, in a sense, the difficulties, the challenges, the hardships. Bring the best with you always to your home to make it a place of second. And then as a part of the favors is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us tents from the hide of animals, light to handle when you travel and when you camp, and out of their wool, fur, and hair. He has given you furnishings and goods for a while. Furnishings, أثاث, it's true, أثاثا, and goods really for trade. ومتاعا إلى حين. Still, we have more favors to come, inshallah, and we'll deal with that in the next session بإذن الله عز وجل. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.